All right, so let's write up the solution to push. If you don't care about it, if you already got it, you want to just check your work, just look at the file included with this video. Okay, so I've made a new snippet just so we can keep track of the first one. I'm going to do this for every single function or method we add. Anyway, here's push. We already have a skeleton, so this first bit is done. It should accept a value. Now what we need to do is create a new node using the value we pass in. So that's easy enough. We have our node class. We just need to make a variable. Let's call it new node equals new space node, pass in the value. So for example, when we make a new list, I'll just give it the name list, it's empty. Then we do list.push hello. It's going to take that string hello and make a new node. It's not added to the list yet, it just exists. Next, we need to check if there's a head property on the list. If there is, set the head and tail to be the newly created node. That's the edge case when it's empty. Whoops. So to check that, we could just do if this.head, or let's actually do if not this.head. So if there is no head, meaning it's an empty list like it is right here, what do we want to do? We want to make this.head equal to new node, and then we'll set this.tail to be the same thing. We could just do this.tail equals this.head, if that makes sense. So they're both pointing to new node. The head and the tail are the same thing. So right now, push will work one time, only the first time. And if we look at list, I just ran the code, we can see that, okay, well, first of all, the length is incorrect. It needs to be updated. It says 0 still. But otherwise, the head and the tail are pointing to the right thing. But if I push something else in, like goodbye, nothing will happen, because if I do list.push 10 or 1, nothing happens because it's all guarded by this if statement, which this is not true anymore. So nothing happens except we make a new node and it just never gets added. So on to the next part, which is otherwise set the next property on the tail to be the new node and set the tail property on the list to be the newly created node. So this only runs if it's empty. Otherwise, what we want to do is take the tail. So take the current tail, this.tail, take the next property and set that equal to the new node. So if I have hello as the tail, and I push goodbye, we're going to take goodbye as the new node, take the current tail hello, set the dot next to be goodbye. And then we just have to update this dot tail to point to that new node. Like that. That's our new tail. Okay? So we took the current tail, we added on to the end of it, and then we moved the tail marker over. And then the last two things we need to do is we need to increment the length by 1. And the last thing, return the linked list. I didn't actually click that far in the last video. I apologize. We do need to return it. So let's go back and do that now. We're just going to increment the length. So this dot length plus, let's just do plus plus. And then return. How do we return the whole list? Just return this. And that should be all we need to do. So if I'm going to get rid of this for now and just I'm going to rerun my code. Okay, if we look at list right now, it's empty. I'll do list.push. Let's push in hi. Okay, so now the head and the tail are both pointing to hi. Cool. Now if we do list.push hi you, I don't know, this makes no sense. If we look at the head, it should still be hi. And if we look at the tail, it's you. And our length is 2. So that's all working. Let's just do one more. List.push hi you. Let's push in the number 99. And we look at list. The head is hi. The tail is 99. So if I did list.head.next, that gives me u. Next again, that gives me 99. And then there is no next. Cool. So push is done. This is the basics of pushing onto a list. We have the one edge case if it's empty. Otherwise, we just take the current tail. It's nice and easy. It doesn't matter if there's a million items in here. It's really fast. We just take the tail and add on to the end and then move the tail one spot over. Okay, so that's push. In the next video, we're going to get into pop. And pop is a little trickier, and you'll see why.